Lockdown 2009. This is the main event Mafia era. It's still the hottest draw in the history of TNA television. Um, Mick is writing a book about his journey to this show. Countdown to Lockdown is the name of the book. What do you think about Mick writing a book on the march to this show?
Fascinating. And so Mick started in not started, but he came to Tennessee as a very young guy. So me and Mick have known each other since 87, 88. Then he went to Dallas, Texas, team with Gorgeous Kerry Young. Scamdar Akbar was his manager. He feuded. He did some kind of triple cage out there, wild bump taker and all that. So I've known him since we really both got started. The WWF days and all this. When he came to TNA and Barry Bloom was an agent, we'd worked out a deal. He was so kind of passionate, I'll say this, about the brand of TNA and how he could help and do this and do that. And when I heard you're going to write a book about your journey to our second biggest pay-per-view, hell yeah. Mick's always been different. And hey, look, you've done a lot of work with him. You can't really put him in one bucket. He's a wrestler. He's a comedian. He's a promoter. He's a philanthropist. He's a thinker, born and raised with parents that were educators and coaches and all that kind of stuff. So he's just a different cat. But New York Times bestselling author writing about our promotion, I was all for it.
Yeah, how could you not be? He's also going to make his TNA television wrestling debut on March 19th. It's going to be you and Mick teaming up against Sting and Kurt Angle. That draws 1.8 million viewers. Man, that's your first match on TV since 06. I mean, so after you've been off television for nearly 3 years and his first match here, wow, that's a big night. What do you remember of that?
We've talked, we've over the last couple of months, we've kind of talked about this era and the tailwind and all the pieces of the puzzle. And look, we had obviously sown so many seeds with the front line, AJ Styles, Chris Daniels, Samoa Joe. We'd gone through the Kurt Joe era and all that. The main event Mafia came together, but just the table to me was set. You had the heels and the establishment, and all five guys were not from the TNA brand. You had me and Mick, that it was, I was the founder of the organization, and Mick's passion and his promo cutting skills, he oozed it that hey man, what's best for the brand? And then you had AJ and Joe and Eric Young and Robbie Roode and James Storm and all that kind of stuff. So all the recipe was there. And when we were kind of laying out, again, it's TV season, January, February, March, April. It's the time of year to do it. You just said it. Mick had not yet wrestled yet. I hadn't wrestled in several years. Main event Mafia was red hot. We knew we were wanting to get to Sting and Mick. And so we, in the writing of the shows, build. And it just felt time, it felt right to pull the trigger. Jeff wrestles Mick for the first time. Let's blow it out. And it delivered. And those kind of episodes and shows and the work that we would put downstairs, in my basement, and the creative, and to get that number come in Friday afternoon, 3:30. It was, those were fun times, Conrad. Just a lot of fun to do that.
You put together a match here where Foley's limitations could be covered up, according to Dave Meltzer. He would also like the story that you guys were telling, where Sting wants to show mercy on poor Mick Foley, and Kurt Angle does not. Kurt doesn't even want to pin him and end it. He wants the beatings to continue, and Sting wants it to end. Eventually, Foley gets a chair, and he even hits Sting. And the commentators are acting like, hey, did he just turn heel? But no, it's just Mick Foley leaning into the mankind persona, saying, who are you to say when I've had enough? And he finishes with, have a nice day. I like the presentation of Mick here. This is fun. And I'm sure it was something that you guys all spent time working around, whatever his limits were, or when a guy hasn't wrestled for a long time and has obviously been beat up and put through the ringer, and nobody did more of that than Mick, you probably do want to, plan for that. But one of the things that stood out in the write up about the match is you actually hit a pedigree, which Meltzer thought was funny. Talk to me about you pulling off a pedigree in a match. I don't remember you doing one before this.
What's funny, I mean, so I had to have hit it on Kurt. No, who was
I think it was Kurt.
Yeah. I don't ever remember saying, "Hey man, I'm going to do this." Maybe at the time I did, but no, it's like, no, let's move into this, and some kind of move set. But all right. So Conrad, here's what I want to make my point. Marcus, will you pull up that picture of Jeremy and Mick again? Because I was good. The point I want to illustrate is this: we were doing good numbers or record numbers, as you stated, and everything that went with it. Now, me hitting a pedigree, Meltzer reported on it. Maybe there's a ha-ha moment, maybe whatever it may be, but was somewhat, and I'm not raining just on Dave. I'm just kind of saying the narrative of the journalism, if you will. But the reality is that picture right there, to me, says a lot. That is serious Mick Foley with the mindset, I'm going to sell buy rates or ratings, or I'm going to be serious Mick to draw money. And that during this time, yes, we had comedy on the show in other places, and I'm sure Mick would throw out a funny line here or there, but everybody kind of came to the table. And look, every now and then Kurt would be funny, or Nash or Booker would be funny, but for the most part, it was all serious business on rowing in the same direction to really create some intensity in our story. And that's I really remember this time with that with fondness in that aspect, that we were there to do business, and no, it wasn't. We came to work, so to speak.
Well, let's talk about something else that's going to work here. It's a decision to pull talent from Ring of Honor. This is the era where Ring of Honor is going to be making their national television debut on HD Net. And as a result of them now having a national television presence, TNA is going to pull Samoa Joe, Homicide, Hernandez, all future talent who has been appearing in both places is no longer eligible. Talk to me about that. What do you remember of this move to HD Net for Ring of Honor, and how the talent and the industry reacted to you guys saying, well, you can't go there anymore?
So I want to kind of make sure that I frame this right. I believe this is March of 2009.
Yep.
Yeah. And so we had been on national TV a couple of years. I don't know, remember, because Ring of Honor and TNA both started within 12 months of each other.
Yeah, they were February, you were June.
Okay. Yeah. So, gosh, within 4 months of each other. We both knew on both sides there was going to come a day that, hey, you can't really present both rosters. But we had kind of at an arm's length, specifically Bob Ryder, and that would ebb and flow, but AJ and Daniels and Joe, and there were several folks, Motor City, I don't know if it was Motor City Machine Guns yet, but, had gone back and forth and worked both. But as time was coming on, and then they announced their HD Net deal, the talent, they realized that, hey, we're probably not going to be able to do both. And, the open lines of communication that we had, it was never a big deal internally, because at this point now in 2009, we were running live events, and I don't really think there were guys that we were giving them, the top guys, plenty of work. And I don't remember it being an issue at all. But to take a step back, Spike TV at this point, 2 hours on a Thursday night, we were trying to figure out how to create more content, more programming, maybe another hour. The success of the ratings were going. We had been kind of that I don't want to say stepchild, but we were not as high on the priority list as UFC was and Ultimate Fighter and all that. But we were getting traction and getting a little bit better and a little bit better. There's no way Spike was going to go for us. Hey, yeah, they're stars that they're investing millions of dollars in every week with TV time, that they were going to let them moonlight or be on any other nationally distributed show. So it's kind of a no-brainer. And everybody had open communication and was aware of it. It really wasn't that big of a deal.